let's talk about this two deep roster that was released on Monday night. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it? I was pretty surprised by multiple things on
Can't believe Seth Hennigan's a starting quarterback.
Yeah, that's wild.
I'm just kidding. He's so Seth Hennigan, Tevin Carter. Running back room looks like it's going to be by committee. They have Blake Watson, Sutton Smith, Jay Ducker all listed. I'd imagine if we were throwing it back to the Mike Norvell days, like Blake Watson and Sutton Smith are in a different category than Jay Ducker. Jay Ducker will do the in between the tackle stuff, early down stuff. I think Sutton Smith will be the guy you split out, try to do the Tony Pollard role with, and Blake Watson can sort of do all of it. He'll be the all-around back, every down back.
Yeah.
I guess, like, where does it really start? Like, I mean, I would look at the offensive line as where it starts to be, okay, how do we feel about this? McKylan Pounder starting left tackle, I expected that.
Like that.
Need a better year than last year out of him, and he's got to fight off injuries and just be a better player ultimately. Left guard, no surprise, Jonah Gamble. Center, no surprise, Jacob Likes. Right guard, Davion Carter. Not a lot of size, but when he got in there, he's 6 foot 285. But when he got in there last year, I was impressed. He was okay.
Yeah,
he was solid.
He played pretty well. But I think the biggest thing from the offensive line room, because what we kind of expected during the offseason is you bring in Xavier Hill, you bring in Marcus Henderson, you expect those guys to kind of lock down a guard and tackle spot.
Yep.
With Xavier Hill playing center and guard at LSU, kind of expected him at guard, maybe Marcus Henderson at tackle.
It's the opposite.
It is the opposite. Xavier Hill is your starting right tackle. And
he's listed as an or with Terrence McClain.
With Terrence McClain, correct.
Which was a JUCO guy 2 years ago, 3-star out of JUCO.
Right. And then you've got Marcus Henderson listed as Davion Carter's backup at right guard. So, and let's preface this with this, because you always got to have a disclaimer somewhere. This is not something that is set in stone. Like,
of course not.
Coaches, a lot of the times, and I've been covering the University of Memphis football program for, I think this is year 6, maybe. I think year 6. There are surprises on the two deep every year, and it's like, what's going on? Sometimes it's an upperclassman thing. They like to get some upperclassmen on there. I've seen walk-ons on there before to kind of just give them a pat on the back, like, good job, you've worked your butt off here, your name's on here. This doesn't mean these will be the players playing.
Of course not.
Does it give us an indication? Is this our only indication as of right now today? Yes.
Who's gonna play in Bethune Cookman this weekend? Like,
but you'll see names play in that game that aren't on that two deep. So I just want to push that out there.
It's not set in stone.
It's not set in stone. But there definitely surprises. The offensive side of the ball, I would say that's the biggest thing, is the Xavier Hill, Marcus Henderson stuff. The defensive side of the ball caught me completely off guard. Do you have something else?
I would say on the Xavier Hill thing, I'm glad to see that he
found
out of him and Marcus
spot.
Henderson. I'm glad to see he's in there starting, has that ability. Has shown enough to be listed as a starter. Yep. And Marcus Henderson to be listed in the two deep like that. Injuries happen,
right?
But clearly he didn't assert himself as much as we were hoping, I guess, during fall camp. But Xavier Hill getting a start at right tackle, that'll be fun to watch. And I'm ready to see what this whole line looks like, man. I think the biggest thing is of all of the position groups where there's question marks, I'm the most skeptical about the O-line turning it around this year. And I think most people
kinda
are
have
right
to be.
there.
Yeah, kind of have to
skeptical.
be. Defensive side of the ball, I felt pretty confident in what we would see on a two deep, just because they have a lot of guys returning and, injection of talent, and it kind of figured like these guys will play here.
I'm confused.
That defensive depth chart completely threw me off.
Where do you want to start even? Like, where do you want to start with this? D-line or defensive backfield? Let's
start with the chalk.
Okay.
And get that out of the way. Jalen Allen chalk.
Cormonte Hamilton, William Whitlow, DNs. Okay.
Yeah.
They're listed as oars. I thought Cormonte would be at the top.
Yeah.
Josh Ellison, a D tackle.
Pretty chalky.
Expected that. Yeah. Chandler Martin, Jeffrey Canton-Arku, Sincere Evans, starting linebackers.
Were
understood that.
Set.
Davion Ross is the nickel.
Yeah.
Knew that. Then it kind of threw. I was really thrown. Simeon Blair is a safety.
Yeah. Everything past that.
Understood. Now everything past that, I'm just like, I am lost, and I guess I'll start with the cornerback positions.
Yeah.
Greg Rubin moved to safety.
Right.
Greg Rubin is a safety after 2 years starting. He started as a true freshman, true sophomore at corner and had a really good freshman season. He's at safety, and instead at corner, you have Diego Brumfield, who's from Campbellsville, who they brought in this offseason, or Malik Feaster on one side.
From I just went blank.
Florida State and Jacksonville State.
Yeah.
And then DJ Bell, Diedrich Bell is what he what he was recruited as. That's the name people would know. And Julian Barnett listed as /slashes at the other corner.
Yeah.
I had no earthly idea that was going to look that way.
This is what I thought secondary was going to look like. I thought it was going to be Greg Rubin at one corner. I thought it was going to be Malik Feaster at the other corner. I thought
Simeon Blair, Joel Williams at safeties.
Simeon Blair, Joel Williams, and Davian Ross as the nickel. That felt pretty safe.
It's not even close.
Not even close.
Can I be honest? And I listen, I'm not going to act like I've seen him in action at safety a whole lot, but I don't really, like from a skill set standpoint, Greg Rubin to me feels like a corner. Not overly long, not overly tall. He has good ball skills, but he's good in man coverage.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Having him as a roamer, he's not necessarily like a plus tackler. He's a solid tackler, but he's not a plus tackler because he's not a huge in stature.
Right.
I mean, with how much run support safeties have to do in this day and age, I find it strange, that move. But we'll see it in action, of course.
Yeah, because it felt like where his strengths were as a corner was in press man. And you ain't press man nobody at safety.
You're roaming, and you're going to help and run support a lot.
Yeah.
And he's 5'10". What do they list him
Probably
as?
5'10", 185, 190.
5'11", 190 they list him. That's a good-sized safety, but I don't even know if he's that now. But
obviously, they made that decision for a reason, just not something that we saw coming. And then the two starting outside corners, Diedrich Bell, DJ Bell is what he's listed as.
Redshirt freshman.
Redshirt freshman, came in 2 years ago, not an overly highly rated player, barely in the top 2,000. But I mean, even if he's on the two deep, you would have to imagine that he impressed the hell out of the coaching staff.
Yes,
to be on there.
Of course. If you're listed as a starter over the guys that we were mentioning, you had to have made a move in fall camp, like a real move.
And then Diego Brumfield as well. Like, that's a guy that first year in the program. Malik Feaster, we know, the kind of talent level that he has. And they're oars, so we don't. That would typically, if there's an oar,
it's a battle,
especially in a first game, they will probably rotate.
And it also means, in some of these situations, not every situation, because you are going to rotate some of your secondary pieces because they get tired and they have to chase after guys running 9 routes at times.
Yeah,
but I would imagine, okay, bright lights get on you. Who's going to shine in that moment?
Yeah.
And then they may take the lead. It's like, because sometimes position battles take till the second, third week to really figure out.
Yeah, especially.
And I don't think they're in a huge rush with Bethune Cookman being
exactly. And that's what I was going to get to. You don't have a difficult game to start your season with, so we will see a lot, if not all of the players in the 2-3 deep, because they're going to be rotating. You would hope that Memphis ultimately gets a big score differential between them and Bethune Cookman, and then you're able to throw in some other guys.
See what they can do.
That may be 3 or 4 on the depth chart, just see what they look like on the field in live game action. So
the other surprise comes on the D-line.
Yeah.
I figured, if you have a 4-down front, let's just go operate off a 4-down front, even though they'll probably run 3 down with a stand-up, and they may move some things around. I figured you'd have sort of Jalen Allen, Cormonte Hamilton, Josh Ellison, Derek Hunter in some form or fashion at the D tackles.
Or Darius Jones.
Or Darius Jones. Yeah. Darius Jones not listed.
On the 2 deep.
On the 2 deep. Starting nose tackle at 6'2", 260 as a true freshman, Jara Anderson.
Yeah.
I didn't, no one saw that coming. No one had any idea. And then his backup, Keviante Spears, who was at Louisiana Tech last year, was sort of a late addition to the whole thing. He's bigger, 6'4", 295. But at nose tackle, I'm sorry. If I see a nose tackle like me, playing guard or center, and I'm looking at the other team's depth chart, watching film, if I see 6'2", 260, I'm like, this is not a big team.
Yeah.
How much depth do they have? If they're comfortable running out a nose tackle, playing a shade or a 2-eye or head up on the center, and he is 260 pounds, I'm feeling good about myself that week.
Right.
Feeling good about my chances.
Yeah, I agree. That was surprising, especially to see him listed as the nose tackle and not a 3 tech.
Well, like all these things, like he must have made a hell of a move in fall camp to be listed as a starting nose.
Yeah, because there aren't many true freshmen that have made immediate impacts under Silverfield over the past couple years.
And along the D line, usually you have to have time to grow and mature. And he's only 260. You know,
right.
I would imagine their plan was to put weight on him, but maybe he just balled in camp.
Yeah,
you can't
maybe
do anything
he's just
about
that
it.
good. We'll get to see what he looks like in live game action on Saturday.
But noticeable omissions. No Jalen Joyner from FAU.
Yep.
No Adarius Jones.
Yeah.
That's strange.
Joshua White as well.
Joshua White. Yeah, he was their highest rated recruit 2 years ago.
Yeah. So some surprises out there for sure. But once again, this is not it. You know, this is not finalized. Like Saturday will go much longer in the way of who plays than what fall camp has.
It depends on how you view some of these. It's like the guy you thought, it's either the guy you thought was going to start was terrible during fall camp, or the guy that ended up starting just absolutely balled out and played above his head and had to be listed as a starter.
But that's what you want, man. Like
competition that's healthy as hell.
Yeah, you do not want people just getting rolled out there because they're an upperclassman or because they have started before or because of their recruiting pedigree. Like as a football fan, you want, or just a fan in general of sports, like you want your team to put the best players out there.
And Ryan did say of all like the competitions, he mentioned the secondary first and then he mentioned D tackle.
Yeah.
So maybe there was just some sway back and forth, you know, practice to practice, scrimmage to scrimmage of who really was showing up. That would be the positive way of looking at it. He also mentioned both tackle spots, right and left tackle, and receiver.
Yeah.
One thing that is interesting, Toski Dove not listed as a starter. Rock Taylor's listed as a starter. That's not a surprise to us. But Toski's gonna get plenty of run.
Yeah, and that to me, that's another thing that if people aren't like huge football fans,
you
like
rotate people in.
Wide receivers and defensive linemen are going to rotate a lot.
Yes.
We talked about them having depth on the defensive line and being able to go 8 to 10 deep. That's what you want on the defensive line. You want to be able to platoon swap D lines if you need to.
Yep.
And wide receiver as well. I don't think they're nearly as deep as wide receiver as they are on the defensive line. But having a guy like Toski Dove and being able to rotate him in pretty much at X or Y, either of the outside receiver spots, is helpful.
As a point of reference for D-line, by the way, Georgia, who's won the last 2 national championships, if you haven't been paying attention, they literally do platoon swaps.
Yeah.
Like series to series.
Total new.
I mean, it's 4 new guys. That's why, like, Trayvon Walker, when he was picked first overall by the Jags, they're like, do you really want to draft a guy who only played half the defensive snaps?
Yeah.
They platoon swap. Like good teams, when you are operating at a high level on the defensive side of the ball, your defensive line is rotating and you have guys that don't miss a beat when they come in.
Staying fresh.